Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. In today's video, what we're going to be going over is creating a main menu system in which we can have our main menu where we can start the game, change the options, and also look at the credits as well as obviously quitting the game. Now the options I'm not going to set up in this video, it will be in the next video later on. However, I will be going over that and doing it in a much more efficient way than I did previously, and in the future I might also set up a save and load system for our games as well. So as you can see here, this is the main menu screen we have at the moment. It's very easy to customize to get it to look the way you want, so you can change how the buttons look, you can give them sound effects, you can change their positions on the screen, and you can change the background and all this great stuff to make it look how you want. You can also notice I've got music playing in the background as well. That's just the starter content music, however I put it in there just to show that you can add music using this system as well. So let me go some of the options. So again, the options will be a future video. The credits you can go on, it takes you to the screen where you can display the credits for making your game. So these are just some random ones which I put in off the top of my head, because obviously there's no credits because this isn't an actual game. We can then press back, go to the main menu, quit, we'll obviously quit the game. I'm not actually going to show that at the moment though, because it is just going to quit. And start is going to load up my level. This is the only level I have at the moment, but you'll notice this works perfectly. It's loaded into the level and we can play our game, but again, there's no game for me at the moment. So this is what I'm going to be going over today in creating, and again, I will be continue to advance upon this in future videos. So without further ado, let me delete this code and I'll show you how I've done it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to actually create our main menu. So we're going to be doing this via widgets. So I've got my new folder here for main menu just to keep it nice and organized, and in here I'm going to right click, go to user interface and create a widget blueprint. I'm just going to name this main menu, very simple name, and I'm going to open it up straight away. First thing I'm going to do in here is add in my background image. So if I just search for image, drag that onto the canvas panel, close that there. I'm also going to rename this to be background, just so I know what it is straight away. With it selected, I'm going to keep the position X and Y as 0, but change the size X to be 1920 and size Y to be 1080, so it is full screen like this. And as it is full screen, I also want to change the anchor to be the full screen anchor so it stays in the correct position on screen, as you can see here. Now the image I'm using is just a copyright-free gaming background main menu image, which I named main menu background, I believe. Let me try and find it. So also to add it in, sorry, you go to brush, image, main menu. I can't find it in actual fact, I think I just deleted it now. So let me re-import that again. So I've got my main menu background here, you can just drag and drop it in. Then what we can do is search for main menu background. There it is, and now this is the image which I have. Again, you can choose whichever one you want. I'm going to compile and save that. Now the next thing I'm going to add is the title of our game. So I'm going to drag in some text onto the canvas panel, not background, and in here I'm just going to type the name of my game, which for the moment I'm just naming this main menu, but this is where you'd actually put the name of your game. So for example, you would write Fortnite in here, or whatever the name of your game is. I'm going to change the color to be black, but again, you can choose whatever you want. And if you wanted, you can also give it a little outline down here and change the outline color, but I'm not going to bother with that. And you can also change the font as well, and you can import fonts if you want. And if you do want a more in-depth video going over how to use custom fonts, then let me know in the comments down below. Then the next thing I'm going to do is just increase the size, and I'm going to make this a size of 100 down here. Then I'm going to press size content and just move this where I want, again moving the anchor to be in the position there so it doesn't move from here. I think that's going to be good for me, leaving it as it is there. So it just says main menu. Then we want to add in all of our buttons which we're going to use. Now a nice way to keep these organized is to get a vertical box, dragging that onto the canvas panel here. I'm going to rename this to just be main VB, so main vertical box. And I'm going to move this into the position which I want. So I'm going to move it here. I want it to be roughly this size. The size we're going to change in a minute, but I want it to be roughly this big. So now I want 4 buttons. I want the start, the options, the credits, and quit. So what I'm going to do is search for a button, drag and drop that into the vertical box here. Now you notice it's in that position there. With it selected, what I'm going to do is press fill under the size. Now you'll notice that has now obviously filled up the entire space, but we are going to be changing this in a second. I'm going to rename this button to be start button like this. Then I'm going to drag some text on top of that button, so you'll notice it's now parented under there. And this button, and this text, sorry, I'm going to write in here to say start, so the player knows what this button does. I'm not going to change the size of it, but I am going to change the color to be black just so it stands out a bit more once again. So now we have our start button. So what I'm going to do is select both the start button and the start text, Control C, select the main vertical box and hit Control V. So now we have another button, and you'll notice as they're both fill, what's happened is it's actually put the space so they're now both equal in there, so they're both filling up the maximum amount of space they can have. I'm going to rename the start button that I just duplicated to be Options, or Options button, and then change the text to say Options, like this. So now we have our Options button. Do the same thing again, so duplicate it into the vertical box. With this one, it's going to be my Credits button, so rename it, and then change the text to say Credits, and then one final time for my Quit button. Again, you can have as many buttons as you want, so if you wanted, you could just have Start and Quit, or you could have more than this if you wanted as well. Very easy to customize and perfectly set up for how you want. So now we have all of our buttons here. They're not going to do anything yet, but we have them. However, you might not like how this looks because they're all just completely next to each other like this. So what I'm going to do is search for a spacer and add that in between the buttons. So in between the start button and the options button, I'll add a spacer like so. If I were to select the spacer, we can change the Y value to increase or decrease a gap between these buttons like this. The value I'm going to go with is 50. As you can see, that gives us a nice gap between the buttons there. That's what I want to go with. So I'm going to select the spacer and copy it and then paste it into the vertical box another 2 times. Move it between the options button and the credits button, and between the credits button and the quit button. So I have a nice gap between them. However, I don't want the buttons to be this small, but I do want the gap to be that big. So I'm going to select the vertical box and just increase the size of it like this, so it gets a little bit bigger, because again, the buttons are going to fill up as much space as they can, and we are now giving it the space to fill up. So I think this size is going to be perfect for me. I also now want to move the anchor to be in the middle of the vertical box so it stays in this position on the screen like so. And what I might do as well is just move the main menu text over a little bit just so it's a bit more centralized. We can compile and save, and I think that looks perfect for me. So again, this is just a very basic one which I've set up. You can customize the visuals a lot more if you wanted. So if we were to select the start button, we can change how the button looks under appearance and style. Normal here, you can give it its own image, so you can change it to be anything that you like, and the same with hovered and pressed as well. So when the button is like this, it will look like the image you want. When the player hovers over it, it will change, and when the player presses it, it will change as well. You just change all the stuff in there, and if you just want to change the color, you do that under color and opacity like this. So again, if we go into normal, change the tint, you'll notice it's now changing the color like that. Again, I'm not going to go into that, but I am going to show you how to do it anyway. So I'm going to compile and save this. What I'm going to do now is minimize this, right click on our main menu, and duplicate it. I'm going to name this one Options Menu, which again we're going to set up in a future video, but I will open it up now anyway. Minimize it again, right click, duplicate, and call this one the Credits Menu, which we are going to set up now. So I'm going to open that up as well. In the options menu, all we're going to do at the moment is rename it from main menu to options, so the player now knows this is the options menu. And so obviously you'll rename it from your game name to options. And I'm just going to delete the buttons which we have inside of the vertical box. So I'm keeping the vertical box, but just removing the buttons inside of it. So now this is ready for us to set up in a future video. So I'm going to compile, save, and close that. Now with the credits, I am going to set that up now. So I'm again going to rename it from main menu, or the name of your game, to be credits, so the player knows where they are in our system, and re-centralize it again like so. Then what I'm going to do is again delete all the buttons within our vertical box, and instead just add in some text. So I'm going to drag in text into our vertical box here. I'm going to change the horizontal alignment to be in the middle, and also do the same on vertical as well, but this time I'm not going to fill it. I'm going to change the text here to just say game made by Matt Asplund, or whoever has made it for you. And again, I'm just going to change the color and opacity to be black. I'm going to give this one a size of 50, or maybe 35, actually I think I gave it. So a size of 35. Then I'm going to duplicate that in the vertical box, giving this a size of 20 or 25. And I'm going to change the text in this one to say game made using Unreal Engine, because again, you do have to make sure that you credit Unreal Engine in your game. And instead of adding a spacer between these, what I'm going to do is just add another line inside of this text here to give me a nice space like that. Then inside of the same text, what I'm going to do is Shift Enter to add a new line. That's how you do that. And then I'm going to do animations from Mixmo, because again, you need to credit them. So it's always good to make sure you are crediting who you need to credit, because as well, sometimes if you have a specific model or specific sound effect, you need to credit them as well. We'll compile that. And you notice that these are both going from the left. So it's centralized in the vertical box, but the text isn't centralized within the text box. So if we scroll down, we can change the justification to be centered like so. Then I'm going to duplicate this one final time, and actually also, give another line space between there. And this one is going to be where I have the individuals. So programming, Matt Asplund, new line, 3D modeling, Jake Cox, for example. And then sound design, I'll give another random example, Josh Garden, like so. We compile and save that. Now we have our credits set up here. So one thing I also forgot to do is we need to give these a back button. So we can do that now. So all we need to do is drag in a button onto our canvas panel, rename this to be back button. And all I'm going to do on this is add in some text on top of that, changing this to just say back. So again, the player knows what it is. Giving this a color of black so we can see it nice and easily. And you'll notice a lot of this is quite repetitive. Then we're just going to move this back button down into the position we want. For me, that's going to be the lower left-hand corner. Move the anchor position to be there as well, so it stays in that position there. We'll compile and save. One thing I'm going to do is select that, copy it, and move this into my options menu, so again, it's there for when we want to set it up in the next video. I'm going to move this to be in the same position again, based upon where the anchor is, like so. Compile and save. So now we've got all the visuals set up, we want to start setting up some of the code. So let's do the back button first. So if we go into the event graph of this, what I'm going to do is delete these three nodes here, click the back button under variables and press on clicked. So when we press this button, the player wants to go from the credits menu to the main menu. So out of this, I'm going to create widget, with the class being main menu. Return value will be add to viewport, and after this we're going to remove from parent. So what we're doing is we're creating the main menu widget and placing it on screen, then we're removing the credits widget off of screen. Now some people don't like to do it this way, they like to just have it in one widget, or they like to have all widgets on screen but just layered. I personally prefer this way because again I think it's more efficient and it's a lot easier for you, the developer, to handle and work with. So that's why I prefer this way. There's not really much difference efficiency wise, it's just personal preference at the end of the day. So we'll compile and save that, and I am just going to duplicate this over to the options menu once again, but we are now done with the credits menu, so we can close that. And if I place this into the options menu, we will also be finished with that, so we compile, save, and close it. Now we want to set up the coding in our main menu. So again, we're going to go over to the event graph like so. Now at the moment, I've said we're not setting up the options menu, so what I'm going to do is use event construct, drag in our options menu, get it, and just set is enabled. And I'm going to set it to false. So what this is going to do is it's going to disable the options button so the player can't access the options menu, because obviously we've not set it up yet, so we don't want them to be able to go in there. And that will kind of signify to them we plan on making an options menu, but we've not set it up just yet. So that's why I'm doing that. You don't need to bother if you're not going to release the game just yet anyway, but that's why I'm doing it. So we're going to compile and save it. First, let's set up the start button. So we're going to press start button on clicked event. So when the player clicks the start button, they want to load into the game. So the first thing we need to do is right click and get player controller. Reason being, we need to change the input mode. So out of the return value, we're going to set input mode game only, because we're going to set this up a little bit later, but what we're currently going to be in the main menu is UI input mode. So we're just setting it back to the game mode, so when the player enters the game, they can control the player perfectly. Then we're going to set show mouse cursor, leaving it as false, so we're hiding the mouse cursor, because again, we need it to be shown while in the main menu, but not in the game. Then after this, finally, we're going to do open level by name. And this is where you input the name of the level that you want to open up. So for me, that is going to be the third person example map, but for you, this might be a completely different map if you've changed it. So obviously just set it up for whichever map you want to load up, and you have to make sure you spell this perfectly correctly, otherwise it won't work. So we compile and save that, and now I can start my game. So I'm going to select this, hit C to comment it, naming this start button, just so from far away when I'm zoomed out, I know exactly what this does. Then let's set up the options button. So again, we're not doing this just yet, but we'll still be able to open it when we come to make the video later. So on clicked, and what we're going to do is create widget, creating the options widget, which we've just created. If I could spell it correctly, there we go, options menu. Return value will be add to viewport, and then out of this, we're removing from parent. So again, as I explained earlier, what we're doing is creating the options menu, placing it on screen, then removing the main menu off the screen so the player can perfectly see the options menu and it won't be layered, so there won't be any chance for breaking. Select that, hit C to comment it, naming this options menu. Then everything else is very, very similar and pretty much the same. So again, I only have one other menu to open, and that's a credits menu. So select the credits button, on clicked, and what we can do is actually just duplicate this code. So select the create widget, add viewport, and remove from parent. Control C, Control V to duplicate it down here. And what I'm going to do is just change the class widget to be my credits menu, compile and save. That's all we need to do. Again, I'm going to comment this to be credits menu. Now you might think this is very, very simple, and it is, but quitting of the game is actually much more simple. So if we press quit button, on clicked, all we need to do here is drag out and search quit game. And that is then going to quit the game for us. That's what I mean by it's very, very easy. So select that, comment it to be quit game. And this is now the main menu set up for us. So we can compile and save. So all of this will work. We can now navigate between all the different menus we have in our game. So we can start the game, go to the options once we've set it up, go to the credits and back and forth between them, and also quit the game. However, we haven't actually set up opening the main menu yet. So we need to do that now. So I'm going to close my main menu widget, and the next step we're going to do is we're going to create a new level. So we're going to right click and create level here. I'm going to name this one main menu level, opening it up straight away. Make sure to save all this. Now this should just be a completely blank and empty level because we don't need anything in here. So I'm going to go to blueprints and open level blueprint, as that's all we need to do. Event begin play, we're going to play sound 2D, and this is where you'll play your main menu music if you wanted some. If you don't want any, don't put anything in here, but it's quite common to have it. So sound, again, I'm going to be using the start content music, which we have there, and this is for some reason very loud, so I'm going to change the volume multiplier down to 0.1. And out of this, then create widget, with the widget class being our main menu widget, so the main one which we've created, and return value will be add to viewport. So this is now going to place it onto the player screen. However, again, as I mentioned earlier, we do need to change the input mode so the player can actually use this properly. So I'm going to right click, get player controller. Out of this, we're going to set input mode UI only. And the in widget to focus is going to be the return value of our create main menu widget. Now you can get away with not doing this, it will still work, but it would just mean the player will need to double click, so they have to click into the widget, then click again to use it. This just means they don't need to do that. So it just makes it a lot nicer for the player's experience. But in order to actually click, they need to have a mouse cursor. So drag out of get player controller again and set show mouse cursor. And we're going to tick this so it's true, so we are showing it. We can compile, save, and that should now be the whole code fully set up and working for us. I'm going to close this, and one final thing is we go to edit, project settings, so open on the wrong monitor, so let me move it over here. And then if we go to maps and modes, you want to make sure that the game default map is now our main menu level. So when the player starts up the game, once you've packaged and exported it, it will open up the main menu level, which is obviously important, so it opens the main menu so the whole game works. So we'll close that, and I'm now going to open it up and hit play. So here we are in our main menu. You can hear in the background we have the music playing, and this is what we've set up. So we've got the background here, we've got the name, and we've got our different options. And again, as I mentioned, this is what the button looks like. If I hover over it, it looks like this, and if I press it, it will look different. So let's do the options first. You'll notice we can't click on it because I disabled it. The credits, if we click on that, you'll notice it looks slightly different, and we now have our credits menu here. So we've got credits, game made by Matt Asmund, using Unreal from Mixmo, and all the different individuals down here. Press back, we've now gone back to the main menu. If I had to press start, it's going to open up the game perfectly in the level which we wanted, which again, you can actually have a proper game here, but I don't just yet. So this does work perfectly. I'm not going to show the quit button, because obviously that's just going to quit the game. But I think that'll be it for this video. As we've done everything we want to do. We've set up a main menu widget in which we can go between the credits, the options, and back and forth, start the game and quit the game as well. And again, I'm going to continue advancing upon this in the future, so we're going to set up an options menu, possibly even a save and load with multiple save slots as well, if you want to see that. So let me know in the comments down below if that is what you want to see, and if you do, make sure to subscribe so you do get notified of when I post it. And so thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe down below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.